I'm off. Okay, I got out again. Good morning, everyone. I would like to welcome you to our December CAPS meeting. Can I want to do the minutes at this point? Acceptance of the minutes for 11/20/2020. Is there someone who will second that?
I will second it.
Thank you. And now let's go straight into it. I would like to introduce Shawn Johnson, who is our special consultant for elevators, along with Ed Moore, who will be discussing how to upgrade, what to use. Excuse me? Did you say something, Kia? Oh, okay. Introducing Shawn Johnson and Ed Moore, who will be discussing upgrading, modernizing, and what we need to know about our elevators, which most are over 30 years old. So I'm going to hand it over to Ed to introduce again Shawn. So Ed, take it away.
Good morning, everybody, and happy holidays. We went out, I was tasked to go out and find an elevator consultant. We went out and we talked to a bunch of consultants. And Shawn impressed me the most when we walked. He actually came out and walked our elevators with me and was showing me some deficiencies and some things that we're not doing correctly. And then after that, we talked to him some more with the board, and we brought him on board as our consultant. And he's going to be writing up a contract that we're going to be going out to bid with next year to replace our service contract. He's already done a spec sheet for our new elevators, which we send out to any elevator company that wants to, or any elevator company when they're going to bid on a new elevator. That's what we use as our specs. Anybody needs a copy of it, let me know. Shawn works for VTX, which is a consulting firm. And with that, I'll just let Shawn take over on what we've been doing and where we're going.
Well, thank you very much. Happy holidays to everybody as well. Again, I am Shawn Johnson. I work for VTX, which stands for Vertical Transportation Excellence. So we are a division of a very large company called Gannett Fleming, if anybody knows Gannett Fleming. So that's really the parent company. It's very large, about 3,500 people. And I just happen to be part of their elevator group, which I manage all the Southeast region. And I just had a plus the other day, and then now all the Mid-Atlantic. So which I've managed before. So I have teams of people up there as well. So I am living here very close to your facility. I live in Pompano Beach. And so it makes it very easy for me to come over and actually help your group out when asked. So I've been in the elevator business now a little over 38 years. I'll have 39 years in May 19th. So looking for that. And then one more year to the big old 40. So again, it's a short period of time I've been in the elevator business, but it's been good to me. And thank you very much for giving me the chance to help you guys out. So again, I've met some of you right now going over certain modernization proposals you guys have had, and there was just a whole flurry of different companies, different information that you guys were being exposed to. So the management group, meaning Ed and Bruce and that group, basically want to make it easier for everyone here and also do the right thing. So we're starting. This is a facility we almost want to keep most of the elevators, like all the eggs in one basket is the term we use to be very successful as an entire group. Because if we limit the amount of controls that we bring in here, we actually can help each other out. If we use X1 control here, X2 control here, that's fine. However, it's best to try to match up the main controls. And it also puts pressure on the different manufacturers to actually make us more of a key focus for them to support us for a period of time. A lot of the new controls that are coming out nowadays are all electronic. It's not like a lot of the units you guys currently have, which are relay logic. relay logic. The relays can be repaired, different things like that. However, that technology and the technical aspect of it has disappeared from our business. It's so this is where we're moving into the obsolescence piece of all of your systems, of why you should modernize, along with the litigation aspects of it that I mentioned earlier in just a brief talk earlier. So what your management group has asked me to do is basically come up with the modernization specifications, which we have done right now. The only additions we'll be doing to that will be a bid sheet, so it's very easy for your group to evaluate the bids that do come in, so you don't have to look through a lot of their different language, what they're trying to avoid or anything like that. We'll have absolute bullet points where they can look at the different pricing, if that's what we're about, and then look at the strengths of the companies that will be bidding. That I believe that's what we will be doing as a group when we're evaluating a lot of these vendors. We will actually do a true interview of these people to find out their talent level within the group, the talent level with their management, and then their focus on what they will do for us to basically make our lives easier and less items to manage. So that's some of our goal there. And so after that piece of it, we are entering into, and we have a rough draft, and we have an advisory group right now that we're working through a rough draft of the maintenance specifications that we will have, so we can truly monitor the elevator company that is going to be maintaining your units. We will be having benchmark settings along with our requirements. So when you guys ask a question about, well, what's wrong with my elevator, we can actually look at something now. We can see how many hours they've worked on it, the amount of trouble calls that you guys have had. We will have limits of the amount of callbacks that you'll have on your units before we actually send in a group to help us to eliminate those right away. And so it's going to give a lot of different things. And your management company has had a lot of to do with this, that they've had me set it up, and I've set it up so we can actually truly manage it now, along with the process of the check-in and check-out sheets. We are setting up emergency parts. So when we do modernize, we will take the usable parts that we can use throughout the system for emergency uses. So there's a lot of really good things that you guys have done just in a short period of time. So that's pretty much my scope of work, is to help you along with the evaluations of your units. Whether they're new or old, you'll be evaluated. We will look at, again, the type of maintenance that's being performed. We will also do the evaluations to put you in a schedule of how you should be modernized in a period of time. Right now, until we finish the evaluation, but I think your management group has this down pretty well, that we believe somewhere between 75 and 80% of our portfolio is in need of a modernization in a period of time, whether it's the next 5 or 8 years. And that's how we'll set up a lot of the scheduling within your system when we do the evaluations. These evaluations will take place every single year. We are going to try to make these within about 6 months apart of the state requirement surveys. So you'll have 2 authorities in there, meaning your consultant, which will evaluate, the authority, also making sure they're picking up all the violations, just another look. Along with the consultant part, we'll also look at the items that they need to adhere to in the contract that we're building right now, the maintenance agreement, where the authority looks at all the safety items. They don't necessarily look at your contractual requirements. So this way you have 2 authorities looking at your systems 6 months apart, along with the monthly requirements that you will have when we have dedicated personnel at your site taking care of your system, along with a marked up amount of time they're actually performing the maintenance on your units. Whether they're new or old, don't let anyone to be swayed by this. The amount of maintenance for a new and old really should remain the same, because if you've already spent the money on the new units, we want to make these last as long as we can. If we can get the same amount of time out of them that we're getting right now, then we've done a pretty good job. I think we've lucked out on a lot of the situations right now. We have some internal issues we have to look at, meaning a lot of your elevator cabs, and I want you to understand the verbiage that I'm using. The cab is the interior part, or the pretty part of the elevator. And then you have a portion of it's called the shell, where we install the cab. The shell, a lot of your units are in wood. Maybe you guys know the issue that we have there with these little critters that we haven't extinguished as of yet. And then the idea, we're changing most of the shells over to metal. So we will eliminate this problem for any future cab modifications. And then other than that, we'll be looking at also the water issues that we do have in some of the facilities, and adjusting that, whether you modernize or not. We will have to take care of the pit areas that are experiencing some of the water intrusion problems. So I'm up for any questions right now if you want, or if there's anything else, Ed, you want to question me on before we move on.
Yeah, Shawn, I think you left out one of the important ones, was the litigation part that you offer, if we need that.
Okay, so the other thing, I do all this consulting as well, but the idea, I am a expert witness, so I do a lot of litigation cases. So these are things I bring to the group as well, to make sure that we understand our responsibility as owners, because we are all owners here, and what we're supposed to do. Again, I talked about this a little earlier. Eventually, we will be having people visit us again, family visit us again. And so these are the things we need to be aware of to eliminate any type of injury or anything like that due to a malfunctioning elevator, meaning misleveling. We're taking strict look at the door systems to make sure the door systems are closing at a proper speed. And then also there's certain parts of the door system speed wise that a lot of people don't understand. It's called dwell time. This is the time where when you call the elevator, whether you're inside the elevator or out, there's two different times. So when you push the button, let's say from the hall, the elevator comes and the door opens up. That door is supposed to stay open for a minimum of 5 seconds. Our group here, we're going to extend that out to 6 seconds. So it gives you time. As soon as the door is opening, it gets fully open, we'll have 6 seconds to enter the elevator. That's our minimum. If you require it to be longer, that is something we can voice based on the ADA issues or any other items. If we have different carts or something that we're moving to the elevator, that's something we'll take in as a group and adjust those as needed. So again, the litigation portion of it, I deal with personal injury. Maybe a lot of you people have pets. It's hard to believe, but there's lots of pet issues. A lot of people don't know how to use elevators with pets. If you happen to see your neighbor and someday you're going to be talking to them just outside the elevator again, and your little fellow wants to get in the elevator because it has a longer leash and you're not paying attention. Sometimes they go into the elevator because they know where they live. The door shuts and I don't think I have to say any more because the leash is still on. So these are issues that I have as well throughout the system. So it's a training thing that I'll bring up that you guys should put in any of your minutes for pet safety when riding elevators, different things like that. So again, I do a lot of different elevator cases, from high rises to escalators to home lifts. Home lifts have a lot of issues with just because it's infrequently used, those type of things with home lifts. So did I answer some of your questions, Ed, on that?
Yes.
So again,
Yes.
This is what I'm trying to do. And then the idea when we review callback tickets, these are things that we need to look at for litigation purposes, because if we have repeat callbacks of the same thing, that's something that can affect us as owners. This is the term that we'll use, you knew or should have known. So the idea, we want to take that portion of it away from us and put everything onto our vendor to perform those tasks properly when we see something malfunction, to help our litigation piece out.
And Shawn, the reason I brought that up is the first time we did our walkthrough, you pointed out a bunch of issues that we needed to take care of right away with the leveling and the door not closing all the way and or opening all the way. And because of your background and knowing that we would lose if something would happen there, we repaired those issues, and it was a good move.
Okay, you bet.
We have a question from Abby Davison.
Have you reviewed the signed contracts that are already in place and scheduled for replacement before they get started?
I've reviewed some, and so this is why we're creating our own contracts, because we have been signing the vendor contracts, which obviously favor them a lot more than us. So the idea is most of those contracts, unless we've made any changes before we signed, we end up getting ourselves in trouble if it's a maintenance part. Is the idea is they usually have non-cancelable requirements, or there's other cost of trying to get out of the contract. So we're making those provisions in your agreement, which will be yours forever, and you guys can update that through the years whenever you want to. But to fully answer your question, I've looked at 3 or 4 of them right now in this manner, mainly for the modernization language that they have there. I haven't read, but I believe the one, I know I have the Oracle one and one other one.
You did look at ours.
Yeah, but I believe that's the one that
Yeah,
we looked at. So the answer is yes on some of them. I can't say I've looked at all of them yet.
I just want to make sure that when our elevator is done supposedly in January, that we are going to be conforming to the elevators that are going to be replaced later down the road, as far as controls, like you mentioned, and things like that. But
Abby, yours was looked
Yes.
at by Shawn. You're covered.
Good.
It complies with
Okay,
our
but-
standards.
Okay,
this
so it was
business-
the modernization contract. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Because what we do is we look at modernization contract, that's one, and then we have a maintenance specification, which I think you guys are pretty good at. Even if you modernize, after the modernization and the so-called warranty period, whatever that length of time is, it then will go back to the main contract, which I believe is with Oracle right now.
So when we update our the mechanics and all of that, do we need a maintenance contract for the first year or during the warranty period?
You do not have to. The idea is when let's say if Oracle accepts that, which I don't think they denied any of them yet, in a sense, they're going to warranty it because the provisions in their contract is a full maintenance repair. But if they made any kind of pre-maintenance requirements before they took it on, then that could be a cost to us if the warranty was not included in your modernization plan. And I can't remember right now if that year of warranty was included in your maintenance or your modernization or not right now.
But you would suggest that we have it. You would suggest that we continue a contract for maintenance
Yes,
during the warranty period?
yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, but
Thanks
I would limit it to the 1 year, because what we want to do is make sure everybody goes on the main contract. It's a benefit to all on cost and everything else. When we actually bid this out as a group, we become very powerful as a group when we do it that way.
Thank you very much.
Okay. I just want to remind everybody, we do have about 60 people on the screen right now, so we may not be able to see your hand if you're waving in front of the screen. So please raise your virtual hands if you have any questions. You can find that under the participant list of names. Next up, I believe, is Jack Goldman. He put his hand down. Jack, do you still have a question?
Last week when we had the cold weather, I'm from 2502 Antigua. The elevator went down. Oracle came, got it running. On Tuesday, I had a person stuck in the elevator at about 7 o'clock at night. Security came. They tried using the key to open up the door. They couldn't do it because the door was open 3 inches on the inside. They called the fire department and finally got the door open. They asked permission to call Oracle for overnight. An hour after they left, someone else was stuck in the elevator.
Okay.
I mean, either the elevator should have been left down if they couldn't fix it, instead of saying we got it running. I mean, you know what I'm trying to say?
Yes, I do. And that's part of the evaluation. The idea, if I'm your elevator company and I come out to solve a troubleshooting issue such as that of an entrapment, then the idea is then I need to actually identify the item that was responsible for it. I'm just keen on some of the verbiage that you said. Nothing ever gets cold enough down here. I mean, people can say that verbiage here, but we know what cold is. I think a lot of people on the screen probably know what cold is, and we are not cold. So if they're blaming the weather because of the on the elevator, that would be incorrect. Typically, it should be something like a door lock, different things like that. What you described, meaning the door was 3 inches open on the inside. I have to admit, the idea when you get stuck in an elevator, so I want everyone to hear this. I want you to be stuck in the elevator. I don't want you to try to get out yourself, because that causes some problems. The reason why that elevator was probably open only 3 inches inside, because this item called a restrictor was probably working, and it wants to keep you in the elevator. In a sense, this is how people get injured when they figure out how to get out of an elevator. Let's say this elevator stopped halfway between the floors, and you decided, oh, I see the door opened up and I figured out how to open up the hoistway door, and I jump out and then I lose my balance and fall back in underneath the car. Do you see that? This is an issue here. So the idea is, it's unfortunate that you're stuck, but I want you to stay in the car. But the problem is with Oracle. Oracle should not have had that type of repeat callback. And then the idea, my question back to you is right now, do you have any idea what's wrong with your elevator now after those three incidents?
Nope, they don't tell me. They may tell the office, but they don't tell me. As president, I don't get a report.
Okay, so that's one thing I can tell you that will be changing. We will have that documentation available to you. So we haven't decided whether we put that online or if we have it just in a log form that we can read from. So Ed, you tell me, we typically have electronic form where we can do this log work, correct?
Correct. And Jack, that's part of the new agreement that we're coming up with. So whatever elevator company comes in, they will be reporting it to me the very same day and or the Monday after. So I can get it out to the director so everybody knows what's going on. Right now, Oracle comes out. Sometimes they call and let us know they were here. They don't tell us what buildings they're in. It's not in their contract. The contract is very vague. So we're going to tighten that up a lot.
No, my concern was that they said they fixed it, and an hour after they left, someone else got stuck in it.
Right.
And then we had to call them back. And then I called them the next morning and I said, I'll pay for one overnight call. And they said, well, we haven't even done the second one yet. It hasn't closed because he hasn't fixed the elevator.
Right.
And they fixed it in the morning. I would have been just as happy if the elevator was shut down for the whole night if they couldn't fix it. Instead of saying, well, it's running, it should work. How many people are going to use it overnight till we get back here?
And right.
But I mean, it's not a young group of people. An old person stuck in the elevator is scary for them. Especially, I think we need to give lessons on how to use the phone. Because all he was doing the first time was screaming until someone passed and heard someone screaming in the elevator.
Yeah, and there's two means of communication in the elevator. So if you're going on it, so you have the phone, if you know where that is, and then there's another button there that should have a bell. That bell should work as well. So, and then I guess the third one would be the screaming method that we heard there. But the idea is those other two units should have been, our devices should have been used first. And then the idea is, let's don't give up on that, the question you've asked. We should know what's wrong there. So that's something we should investigate and find out why, because that could actually help somebody else. The pain you just went through, maybe that could be used in another facility so we don't have that repeat callback issue. And that's some of the reviews that we'll do to try to eliminate these repeat callback systems.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. Next up, we have Allison Singer.
Hi, this is Barry and Allison Singer, and we're at Martinique Circle. Shawn, I wanted to thank you for your presentation. It was very informative, and I just had two questions. One is, when all the evaluations are over, how will homeowners like ourselves come to know when the elevator in our building might be modernized? And will there be some kind of a schedule that's published? And the second question is, what's your time frame? Assuming things go along as you foresee, when do you think we might get that kind of schedule?
Well, my guess is right now, I mean, this will start after the first of the year. So I would think at least by mid-March, or maybe sooner, depending on how the management company wants to proceed with this. If we start right away in, let's say, the middle of January, I should have all the evaluations done about the middle of February. Usually takes a month, and that's kind of what your jurisdiction even looks at as well. Actually, ours is more in depth, but I think I can still do it within 3 weeks to a month. And then we'll do the evaluation scheduling after that. So it may be available to you, but I'm saying probably mid-March, at the end of March at the latest.
Are we understanding that you're going to be using one company to replace the elevators? Or will our board have to come up with, make a choice between elevator companies?
No, the maintenance, I'm suggesting and recommending that we use one maintenance company, and then you guys will have the ability to evaluate the maintenance company. I don't want to take away the let's say the idea of having only one bidder bidding on this. The idea that we will have multiple bidders. We will select the teams that really are the strongest in your area, that we don't have to worry about anybody going bankrupt or the talent levels, different things like that for the installations. But no, we'll keep it competitive and have multiple companies be able to install it, because we do have one spec. They have to adhere to that one spec. So even though it's a different company, we can evaluate the different companies to make sure they're adhering to our requirements. And then it would go to the maintenance company after if there is even a 1 year free warranty period. But I'm suggesting not. As soon as they finish, my requirement would be is to evaluate it, make sure it's evaluated correctly, fix any of the evaluations, and then that would be then monitored by the current maintenance company that you would sign up.
So
Shawn, can I ask
speak?
Shawn a question? Shawn?
Yes.
Bruce Chandler? I think the lady's question was, again, the maintenance contract, we want one, but when it comes to upgrades and renovations, that will be out
Right.
for bid and the board will make a decision on that. It won't be just one company bidding.
That's correct. It'll be.
Yeah, I
multiple
think just to clear that up, there's two issues here and just want to clear that up.
Right, I guess we're new here. We just moved in, so we've gone to visit some people last year, and they had new beautiful elevators, and I guess ours is very old, and I didn't quite understand how the process worked, that we would be in line to get one, or whether we just had to initiate that ourselves.
We will actually help with that. And then depend on how much money you guys give to Bruce and Ed, maybe you can move to the top of the list. I'm not really sure.
Sean, the simple answer to her question is, that your board of directors will make a decision to go forward, and then the process will begin. But
Okay.
Sean is not, they will work with Sean's reports, but Sean will not make that decision to put it in, and there's no automatic way of putting elevators in. The board makes that decision.
That's
Okay.
right. I'll put my recommendations out, and then you guys can move it based on, there's a lot of things. I'll put it out there. Some of you guys may be better financially than others in your facilities, so that will play a role into either improving or moving the schedule out.
Okay.
But again, it's also, if it does move out, then the idea is we have to understand that we really need a focused maintenance plan so we don't run into problems. If you're, let's say you are scheduled to be modernized sooner than most, and you get delayed based on whatever reason, the idea, we do need to focus to make sure that your elevator system still works. Again, you guys just heard it. The idea is, and this is something that Bruce and Ed put in to eliminate you guys of making a choice. We're trying to put in the idea your elevator will be covered 24 hours a day, whether it's Saturday or Sunday. So you guys don't have to make that choice and then have somebody on the third or fourth floor not being able to have elevator service. The idea is you will pay for that. And obviously things do happen, and we may have to wait until Monday if something fails, like in motor or something like that. But the idea is you don't have to make a decision because you're worried about the cost of a weekend callback.
Got it. Thank you.
I have a question. You touched upon cost. Can you give us a range of the cost to upgrade or modernize at this time?
Yeah, the ranges that we've seen of the qualified companies that I see, I mean, there's some ranges from very small companies, and I don't want to downgrade some of the smaller companies out there. So the range typically for the quality work with the larger companies that have the best performance, the best technicians, are ranging anywhere from about $668 to about $75,000. That's with the new cab. That's where we're seeing, right, Ed? Somewhere right in there.
Included?
Somewhere in there.
That's included.
With cab.
So again, you guys, I think you have pretty much like a 3 or 4 different choices of the cab designs. I mean, you guys can have anything you want, but the idea is we do have some costs that are already built in if you select 1 or 2 different models of cab design as of right now. And again, the cab design is really up to you and your group. I mean, if you want to line it with gold, we could do that. It's not an issue, but the idea is we're trying to help out and try to make everything as the same as possible, down to the simple things. I don't know how many of you guys have, and I haven't looked at it yet, flat handrails in the elevators. Do you have flat, for inside? You guys have flat handrails, or are they all round?
Mine's
Mostly flat.
Flat? Okay, so these are the things I'm going to suggest to all the flat handrails will now be round. Here's why. Because of the litigation stuff I do, if you trip into the elevator and hit your head on the flat handrail, what do you think happens to you if you do that rather than if you hit? It's still going to hurt either way, whether it's the flat one or the round one. But those are simple things that I want to point out to you so we keep everything standardized, because round handrails are actually more favorable for any kind of issues. Also with carts and stuff that are moving in there, round handrails are a lot better and they live up better than flat handrails. Just little things like that.
I have a stop button in my cab, and I find that people who use it are usually taking out packages, walk to their apartments, and forget to push the button back in, so the door will close again. is there a suggestion you have for that, or?
Yeah, the new code, the stop switch, just so everybody knows, it's not for anybody. It's not even for you as owners. The stop switch was there for the use of the elevator mechanic at all times. So the idea, all the new designs, and most of you guys should know this, whoever have designed it, they're all keyed switches now. Unless you're an owner that finds that key somewhere to use the stop switch, it is not going to be able to use. And so if you're using your stop switch right now, there's supposed to be a bell in there. So that should have been a violation. So when that stop switch is used, it's supposed to be an obnoxious bell or sounder. So obviously you're telling me that that doesn't work. So that's a problem. So if the sounder was working, you would know right away that you forgot to re-engage the stop switch. But that stop switch is supposed to have a bell or a buzzer all the time.
Okay. Well, on the new designs, do we have one, or do we just have, is there just a key?
It'll be a key switch. So these are things that we're talking about right now. If you do need more time to get out of the elevator, we're talking about putting the system in there, that the door open button may have an extended time up to 1 minute for you guys to move all your stuff out. We're still discussing that as of right now.
Thank you.
Thank you, Elaine. Next up, we have Jack Mendelson. Before we hear Jack, though, I'd like to tell people that have called into the meeting, if you dial *9, I could see that you've raised your hand and have you on the list for questions. Jack Mendelson. Please unmute, Jack.
Hear me all right?
Yep.
You muted yourself again.
Pardon? Hear me okay?
Yeah, Jack.
Okay, I'm participating, part of the group working on the contract. And we're making great strides. We're putting together a lot of it's involved. Elliot is helping. Shawn is great to help us, and Ed. And we're doing very well with it. So we're developing a contract for the community that's going to be a lot better than what we have with Oracle. Oracle, we've all found, is not doing a good job. They're doing a very poor job. They did a poor job on the elevators they installed, and others, some of us have put in new elevators using other companies. My cost was a lot less than you mentioned. By the time I got done, I'll be $64,000 with the new cab. And we also paid extra to have the company work overtime, and they got the job done in 10 days, which is a big help. I think we've got to get together on this contract. We have some questions and we're talking about it. And I hope we'll just take the whole contract possibly to the executive committee or council before we ratify it. I think everyone should take a look at it and have a comment on it. Other than that, we're doing a good job with it and getting there. And I rest much more easily having a new elevator.
Yeah. And then if I can just add to, so Jack's experience is very good. The idea is, I believe and correct me if I'm wrong, Ed, the specification, not to put more cost on you, anybody here, but there are requirements that I believe that we've added in there, such as there's some metals and stuff like that, because we're in a breezeway. We're upgrading that. So that's why our cost would be a little bit more. But the idea is, I don't believe people have been putting in the NEMA 4 requirements for the push buttons, stainless steel. There's a whole bunch of range of different stainless steels, and we've picked certain models now so they will not rust. Stainless steel will actually rust in our area. So the idea, that's why you have to pick certain types, which is 304 or 3/16 stainless steel and certain things like that. So Jack may be very lucky at what he's doing right now. So the idea, we put other provisions in there to even help last, keep this equipment lasting even longer and more reliable.
Yeah, Shawn, those elevators, or his elevator, was done prior to us completing that spec sheet.
Correct. So that's why I want to explain that the cost that we said, there's difference, but the idea is, and this is nothing against what Jack and his group has done. Maybe they'll work out very good. he just didn't have the benefit of the information we have right now. And the idea, it needs to be weather related type of equipment that we're reinstalling so it will last longer. Because
Very helpful.
they're
Thank
they're electronic now, so that's a little bit different than the relay logic stuff that you had in the past.
Okay, Mr. Stein.
Yes, good morning, everyone. I've heard Jack Goldman's story, and we've probably all have had similar stories. But just to talk about the contract that we have right now, one of the things that's in the contract is that Oracle is responsible for service 24/7. So that if they're called back on the weekend or in the evening, they should not be charging extra money. That's part of the contract. The only way that they can charge us or attempt to charge us is if the elevators have been vandalized. So when you get the call in the evening, or a president or a board member gets a call, it's to let you know that the elevator is down and somebody is coming and permission for them to work on it. But you shouldn't have to pay any extra money unless they can prove vandalism. Ed has become a elevator detective in trying to work out what vandalism really is and isn't. And thank you for doing that, Ed. I know that we've talked about that before. And just the other issue is upgrading. So we're going to, it sounds like, well, I know we are because of what I heard is that Shawn is going to help and Ed with recommendations about upgrading, but it really is up to the local associations to have money in the reserve to be able to do it. So each association is different. Some associations may need to upgrade sooner than others, but if they don't have money in their reserve, then they'll have to work that out. That's really a local decision, and hopefully all of the residents will be involved in that. That's it. Back to you, Kia.
I'm sorry. Barry Smith. If you could unmute.
Okay, good morning. Shawn, we've been talking about getting elevators done and having a 1-year warranty. What is actually included in that? Do they do the monthly maintenance? Do they do the adjustments and et cetera, like the leveling? Or do they just come out when something breaks as compared to our maintenance agreement where they come out on a monthly monthly schedule and check things?
Yeah, so currently right now, the idea is they've included warranty service, but there's no language in the documentation that says they'll do it monthly or if they'll ever do it. The idea is they will answer callbacks and different things like that. So that's on us. We should know if we do that. That's why I'm saying right now, there's no reason to have that warranty cost included, because the warranty cost is included whether you think so or not, or if it's written down. It's in the project. I mean, people don't just do things for free, even though you heard me say the so-called free maintenance. It's not free. It's in their cost somehow. So I'm saying that once they finish, if it's accepted by the jurisdiction. That's one. Then it's accepted by us, meaning you guys through me or anybody you guys have to make sure this lived up to the contract requirements, so on and so forth. And then you have the current maintenance company that has a chance to look at it as well. And if it's all accepted, then it goes right into their system. And there is no warranty, maintenance, or anything else to worry about. And you will be on a monthly requirement now due to your main contract. The warranty service really is just an acceptance. They'll take care of everything. Your current maintenance company, when selected, will also live up to that so-called warranty language and take care of items that come up. That will be some of their requirement, accepting our maintenance plan of the 114 units you guys have in your facility.
Barry, just to add to that, the warranty just covering the parts and labor, And in 90 or a lot of the other contracts that I've looked at, it doesn't cover the monthly inspections, which is going to nullify the warranty because you're not doing the inspections. So we got to really be, that's why we're going through this whole thing. We got to start
Yes.
protecting ourselves.
So, Ed, in other words, the stuff we talk about in regards to one company, when we get a new elevator, they really can't be off the maintenance agreement for 1
No.
year. Have to
No.
be on it. Okay.
Correct.
That's
There's
what-
no sense
that's
in
what I'm trying to
paying.
clarify.
Nope.
Okay.
The
Thank
warranty
you.
is the warranty, the maintenance is the maintenance. It's two separate things.
Right. Correct. Okay. That's what I was trying to clarify, that they, just because you get a new elevator, you can't say, well, I'm not paying the maintenance agreement for a year.
No, because then nobody's going to do the maintenance.
Right. That's what I wanted to see. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. We do have 3 more pending questions. Miss Ronnie Sinzon, a Miss Linda, and Jack Goldman.
Good morning and thank you for being here. I know that you were talking about different costs, but I'm curious as to the upgrade basically of the mechanical. That seems to be a standard course where the interior is fluctuating. Can you tell us about how much the upgrade of the mechanicals would be?
Yeah, that's somewhere starting right around, like I said, about let's say 68,000, somewhere right in there. That includes your pump unit, your new controls, a new door operator, new door equipment. They will repack your piston, your current piston. The only thing they're not doing on the modernization is basically replacing the hydraulic jack. That is something that you guys have taken on as a group. So if that does fail, there's certain provisions within your group to take care of that if that happens to fail. So
Got it.
So, and that also inside the car, even though the cosmetic piece that you mentioned of the cab design, whether we do the cab design or not, you will receive, we call them new fixtures, and that's the car operating panel, so the buttons inside the elevator, and also the fixtures outside, meaning they're all the hall fixtures. And then any lanterns, I believe most of the elevators here have, they call it cab lanterns, that have the up and down arrow inside the elevator jamb. You'll see that in the jamb.
Also, I thought that there was also an air conditioning type unit that has to go in, I don't know, by the electrical or the motor, or is that accurate? And is that additional?
Yeah, it's included. These are called all your we call it the ancillary piece of it, or all the building related items, which is the building related items are the improved lighting that you have to. So as soon as you modernize, then you affect that facility that you're installing that. So I have to upgrade my fire system, which is part of that. I have to upgrade the HVAC, like you mentioned. There's a code requirement. It's not for it to be cold. I want everyone to understand this is to reduce the humidity levels in that particular room. That's what air conditioner does. So the verbiage of air conditioner exactly is what we have to do. And it does make things colder, and you want that because then that brings your mechanic in there to work on it a lot more when it's inside. And then, like I said, the lighting, and then other provisions also, including sealing the pit if required, stuff like that may have to be done.
So all that would be included in this cost.
That's, and we call it a turnkey project. This is so you guys don't have to go outside. Well, let's put it this way. It's going to be included under the elevator budgeting, let's put it that way. Because Ed has some different ideas where we can do some facility work outside to help out some of the cost.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Miss Linda?
Okay, can you hear me? Am I unmuted?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Hi, I'm a little bit concerned about having 2 different companies in the initial process of getting the elevator. It kind of seems to me that then we'd have the elevator installed and that company would say goodbye and there's no warranty. And then we have a maintenance company come in and they say, well, this should have been done by the installing company and this part is broken and it has to be replaced, or this is, something that should have been done by the installation company. So I'm a little bit concerned about that, about them saying, well, it's the maintenance company's problem and it's the installing company's problem. Can you see that happening?
Again, and so I apologize if it was not clear earlier. So we have a process in place. So you would have the acceptance company, which is called the AHJ. So that's the authority having jurisdiction. That's the Broward County inspector that would accept the elevator. Then us as a group. And what we're doing is we're evaluating those items that you just mentioned to take away that excuse. We're making sure they're adhering to all those items. And then the current maintenance contractor that you would have in place at the time of that acceptance, they would accept it. And then we would have them sign something so that that item to point fingers at somebody else goes away. You are covered. So these are the provisions we have in place to make sure that does not happen.
Okay, so they're willing to do that. The maintenance company will be willing to sign that blanket thing that says, no matter what happens, I'm in charge now.
It's part of their acceptance of maintaining your facility. That is correct.
Okay. I also had another question, thinking of how things go in the computer era, thinking that the elevator controls are going to be a lot more sophisticated than they have been in the past. That, I don't know, maybe if you want an extra time to leave the elevator, there might be a little button that says, hold it a minute, it takes me a little longer. There might be some things that we could do with the modern era to make the elevator more friendly for all of our different needs.
And that is absolutely the case. And we have those provisions in there. It's just what controls that we were signing on. So it gives you those options. Again, all those options do cost money. So I just want to make sure that we have enough competitive controller companies that we pick that can basically provide that requirement that you just mentioned. But that is our goal, is to have those options for you due to the different ADA requirements we might have in your facility.
Oh, okay. So we might even get somebody to walk on the elevator and say, 4th floor, please.
Yeah. Maybe.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Thanks.
Thank you, Miss Linda. Mr. Goldman?
Yes, I had my cab updated about 5 or 6 years ago. Does that mean I'm gonna have to redo my cab when we do all these upgrades?
No, sir. No, the cab is strictly just that. You beautified it during the condition. You changed it based on not changing any controls. I can change the controls without changing your cab.
Thank you.
Thank
Can I add one more thing to that?
Sure.
What I would check on that cab is to make sure that you have the proper shell for that cab, that it's not a wood shell, because you could experience the issues that a lot of the owners here have experienced in different buildings. So that's something we really should look at. I don't know if you have a metal shell or not.
When they did the cab, it was a wood box, and I believe there was no termite damage, and they left the box. I'm not 100% sure, but that I believe it's still a wood shell.
Okay, so the idea is, if you're not ready to spend that money, then Ed has a fantastic plan that costs money to have a certain company come out and treat that, because that's some of the problems. That area was never treated in the past, and that's why, Ed, we just looked at one the other day. I forget it was
one of Fred's, one in Fred's area.
Yeah, so Fred,
all the termites.
I mean, we did, Fred, how old was that one?
Fairly new.
Yeah.
Well, Ed, would you take a look at my elevator and let me know so I can
do me a
put
favor,
money away for it?
Put a work order in, and I'll take a look at it. I'll bring someone over to open the door, and we'll look at it. Put a work order so I can remember.
I'll do it as soon as we hang up.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Goldman. Now, just so people are aware, we'll have Mr. Daniel, then Mr. Richard Conrad, Jack Mendelson, and then we'll get to you, Ms. Greenberg. I see you waving at the screen. Before we go to Mr. Daniel, there was a question on the chat posed by Bob Horowitz. He would like to know, what does the present contract cover? Do they inspect and lubricate on a regular basis now?
The current requirement is yes, to answer your question. The answer is yes. However, there was no provisions in there or benchmarks to evaluate and to make sure it's being done in a timely basis. So that's why we're moving forward with the contract that has these different benchmarks so we can assure it's being done in a timely manner.
I think what Sean's referring to is right now we have no way of really watching them. In the new contract, we'll have a way where either I or one of the staff members here, when they're doing it, we'll know where they are at all times. So if they're inspecting 1901 or whatever building, I can actually drive over there and take a look and see if they're doing the lubrication, if they're doing what they're saying they're doing. Right now, we don't have any check marks for them right now.
His follow-up is, do they submit a report each time?
Yes, they will.
Yes.
The Oracle doesn't, but they will. The new company will. It's in the new contract.
And let me add to that. The current company is supposed to do that. There is a machinery log that's part of, we talked about it briefly just before the meeting started. In our state statutes and in the national code that was accepted by Florida, in our A17-1 book, that's strictly for the elevator piece, in the 8.6 section, there's a whole criteria of what you're supposed to do for maintaining elevators. Whether it was in the contract they signed or not, they have to adhere to that, and they have failed at many places that Ed and I have gone in. And the unfortunate thing is your jurisdiction has never written them up on a lot of them. They have in some aspects of it. They have deficiencies on logbooks and different things like that, but they have missed on a few other items. So this is something they should adhere to no matter what, and they have failed to do that, but they're improving. We're making them do it now.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Daniel, you also reported a question in the chat. Do you want to go over that now since you're on?
Well, that was one thing. For all the people that are here, and I always get a lot of questions on it. I used to be a consultant, as Shawn. They say, well, when should we modernize? If you wait for later to do your modernization later, well, my elevator is running and it's fine and everything. Here's something that I need to caution you on. If your valve goes down or if your motor on your hydraulic unit goes down and you have to replace it and you're going to spend $3,000 to $4,000 or even $5,000 to do that, when you upgrade your elevator, and that may be next year, when you say, well, we're going to upgrade, whatever work you did now on this old unit goes out the window. So I caution you that, because you don't want to spend $5,000 now and next year have to spend another 68 or whatever the cost is going to be. So those are for the people that are sitting back and saying, well, my elevator is good. These elevators are 40 years old and their real lifespan is about 30. Okay, for those kind of systems. So we're past due modernizing these units. What I wanted to also mention with regards to the modernizations is that if a new company comes in and they install your unit, first of all, you're supposed to get 3 bids or more than 1 bid is actually what condo law says. And if you have a new elevator come in order for them to warranty for parts and labor, the units have to be maintained by them, okay, for at least that 1 year of warranty. If they don't maintain it and you have another company maintaining, there's going to be a lot of finger pointing and your warranty is going to be void. So that's just caution on that. A question for Shawn. Since your contract is an all-inclusive contract, have all these things with fire code been worked out? I know that Victoria had problems with fire code where they wanted them to upgrade the whole building, not just the elevators.
even though the elevators are a separate entity across the hall. Have you looked into that?
Yes, that's, so the answer is, I want to answer your first question too. Again, the finger pointing, we discussed that a few times here. Again, the new vendor, meaning maintenance vendor, if they accept the elevator after the AHJ, and then we accept it as a group that they've done a good job. And once that vendor accepts that car that was just ordered, they take on all the warranty requirements and everything else from then on. That's in our contract. So we don't have to worry about any finger pointing at all. They accept it and then we move on, and that's part of their maintenance requirements, no matter what. So we're doing that in the provisions on for the warrant, for accepting the warranty or eliminating the warranty on a newly installed elevator. Okay. And most of those warranties, again, will be recognized by Maxton, the other ones, even if the elevator company switches on those particular components. I want you to know that. Okay, so it's not like I'm dealing with Otis and only Otis takes care of those different things. Okay, so the next question is, you do open up the authorities to require you to update all your fire requirements for the entire building, even if it doesn't pertain to the elevators. Okay, that is something that we're dealing with all over. You need to fight. If they require you to do that, then you can fight it and ask for a variance, just so I have the zone 1 portion of the fire recall for the elevators upgrade, if your old system would accept that particular zone. And what I mean by that zone is this: if you're making toast in your home and the smoke detector goes off, it's not going to recall your elevator. So the zone 1 are all the devices that you'll have outside of each elevator lobby and or in the machine room or in the hoistway. They're the only items that would recall your system there, meaning your elevator system. If a lot of times these fire addressable systems are outdated, and that's where it falls into the building related items, and they very well could make you upgrade your entire building or add that new fire panel. If that answered your question, Daniel, did that answer that?
Shawn, as far as that, the heat detectors for the elevator, we have a variance with the fire department. We have a letter from the fire marshal. We do not have to touch the building's fire alarm at this time.
Okay.
That's right now, but
yeah,
it's a variance, so he could change his mind whenever he wants, but right now, we keep it quiet. They're just checking the elevator. They're not checking the alarm.
Shawn, can I add something also?
Yes.
It's a good trade-off. If the elevator maintenance company is taking the warranties, they're also taking a elevator that's just been renewed. So that's a good trade-off. That's something they're going to want to hear. If you just had your elevator upgraded, it makes it easier, probably less maintenance calls down the road. It helps their overall contract.
There's no reason for them to take it on. The idea we should see all the problem. If there's problems, then that's our problem. If we do not find that they've adhered to all the problems and we let that go, then that's a bad thing for us. We will be more diligent than anybody, but anybody that's looking at it, meaning the body of the AHJ and or the elevator company, to assure they've met the requirements of the installation agreement. And I've had success with this many times before. So it's not something that's new. This is something that works, and it just absorbs into the system itself. And it takes excuses away, just so the finger pointing needs to go away. And this is one way to prevent that from happening. And it works.
Okay, so to just clarify, you're saying if 2 or 3 companies come in to bid for the modernization, okay, the companies that are going to be modernizing, they're to bid this project knowing that they're not going to maintain, so that they can do their proper proposals.
That is correct.
Okay.
I mean, the idea is if they're thinking they're doing this, thinking they're going to pick up 114 units because they install one of your hydraulic elevators, that's not going to happen. I mean, That'll happen at the proper times of your periods, whatever we set at for your contracts of how the distance. And when that happens, you can bid it out again if you'd like to all these other vendors. And or if you're very happy with your current vendor, then you can let that roll over for another period of time. So it gives you guys all this control, which you never had before.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. All right, our lineup is Mr. Conrad, Linda Greenberg, Jack Mendelson, and then Miss Linda. Mr. Conrad? Unmute yourself, please.
Hi, Shawn. I apologize. I had to step out briefly on another call, but as I understand it, regarding costs, there are two key elements, the cab and the mechanicals. Is that correct?
The key part for you, you can take the cab all the way out of there. You don't even have to do that. It's something you guys should look at because there is a problem within your facility because they installed the shells of the cab area out of wood, and it gets infected by the termite problem that you have in our area.
So the mechanicals, I believe you mentioned a figure ballpark 68K. Is that correct?
I'm putting out a budget, and that's kind of with the numbers that Ed and I have been seeing on the original bids that have been coming in there. And so
recognizing, I'm sorry, recognizing there are great variables with respect to the cabs, is there a ballpark figure there?
I think what was that, about 13 or so?
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Okay.
That's with the metal cap. Basic.
Yeah. So, and the idea, here's the other thing. We're saying this number, okay? Here's the strength of this as well. I mean, when we really get into the modernization portion of it, we're not just going to be bidding one elevator at a time. Yeah. This is the strength of it. So the idea we'll be bidding on possibly anywhere from 4, it could be 8, it could be 10 at a time. And that helps with the overall number. If you guys bid with different blocks of elevators, the idea is you could reduce or lower your cost even more because they're picking up more volume. So that's an advantage you guys have when you're upgrading this. When you think about that, let's say 80% of your units, and I'll just make up a number. Let's say there is something like 60 units right now that we are going to modernize, and you did 10 a year for 6 years. I mean, your cost could be down where Jack is right now, along with all those other upgrades that Ed and I have put into the system, meaning the NEMA 4 portion of it. And you need all this stuff now because it's all electronic. So the idea is we're doing that and a different quality of stainless and so on and so forth. So this is an advantage you guys have. The more we have to bid in a particular year, it could benefit your group to modernize in larger numbers.
Good, thank you.
Excuse me, Shawn, I have a question. It's Elaine. With bidding out for so many elevators at one time, are they going to be able to do 3 and 4 at a time? And not be thin when it comes to employees working on the elevators? And it's getting a half a day instead of a full day's worth of work.
No, so it's like let's say we did 10 a year, right? So right now, you've already heard times of 10 days and so on and so forth. Typically, even if you just said 4 weeks in elevator, right? Just for terms right now.
Right.
We can do all 10 of those in a particular year. We may need 2 teams, maybe 3 teams, but you guys are going to be evaluating these companies. It's not, I will recommend certain ones. You guys already have the experience, so you already have some that can do this work. The idea, we don't want to give it to companies that can't handle that burden, just like you said.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of companies out there, smaller, very experienced companies that have that talent available for you for this period of time.
Thank you.
So we'll be evaluating that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Elaine. We have, I think we did Richard Conrad. Jack Mendelson's up next.
Hear me all right? Yeah, all right.
Yep, Jack, I hear you.
One thing, I think you have a lot of variables when you, for those considering doing a new elevator and mechanicals, there are a lot of things to consider, and variable can vary the cost. You can add a surge protector. We added something called an emergency stop, that if the power would go out, our elevator has a backup battery that takes you down to the first floor and opens the door. That was an extra charge, but we thought that was important. The costs are variable. Time-wise, you can pay extra and have them work straight through. I appreciate the thing about checking the cab, because we haven't done our cab yet. We have a price from 8 to 12,000. A lot depends on what the cab is, wood or metal. I assume it's probably wood. Somebody checked it, but they said it was all right. But I'd be more comfortable having Ed's guys or Ed check it and telling us that it's wood, and we can treat the wood for termites and be done with it. So thank you. I'm going to get a work order in just as Jack is for Ed to check it. Thank you.
Yeah, and you guys have some experience. I mean, just what Fred went through. I mean, he spent money on the cab, I believe, and upgraded, and all of a sudden we found out the shell was bad. So the idea is, I'm not sure what his cost was for those cabs. It may have been right in that range, 8 to 12,000. But now, let's say you do that and you agree on that price, and all of a sudden, halfway into when they start doing the demo, they go, "Oh, we have termites." That price just goes up a lot.
We were referred.
Now there's no competition, so they own you. So
we were referred to Motion Elevator, who apparently does the cabs for everyone else. And they just add a surcharge. So we were working directly with Motion, and people can consider doing that also when they get to the point of doing their cab.
Yeah, and then just so everybody knows, I mean, we can make changes a lot, but Ed and I have already put in different cab companies in the particular area that that are in the specification that are approved right now. And so the idea is we've thought of all those things, including the battery lowering device that you guys heard. That's all included when we do these modernizations now. You don't have to think about it. That battery lowering is a requirement. Now, I want everyone to know that battery lowering only works when you lose power. Okay, so just like we heard, I forget the gentleman's name right now, that somebody was entrapped in the car. All the doors and everything shut, but when you lose power, what that does, it has enough power to release the valve, and you will slowly descend down to the bottom floor, and there's enough power there to open up your doors, and then that car is done, but you're not entrapped. It does take a long time. It's only like 10 foot a minute how you'll descend down, but the idea is that is included in our specifications for all new controllers.
Thank you, Jack. Next question is from Linda Greenberg. Linda, if you could just please unmute.
Okay, I did.
We hear you.
Thank
We hear you.
Shawn, I'd like to thank you very much. It's been very informative. I have one question, and I'm a little bit confused about the cost. If I wanted to replace my cab inside and out and do a mechanical upgrade, and how much would something like that cost me?
We've already mentioned it.
I have all different kinds of figures: 68 to 75,000, 13,000, 68,000 for mechanical. Can we just condense it all so that I can understand it?
Okay, so on average, if you want to do the average, these are numbers that we've seen. The overall cost probably will be somewhere between, I'll narrow it down to 69 to, let's say 71, something like that. And this all pertains if I have to change some hydraulic lines or anything like that. I believe Ed and I looked at, it might have been even Fred's building there, where we have a machine room that's lower. It's lower than the ground level. It's actually, we walk into the tunnel. So we are going to have a cost there. We're going to be building probably a new machine room, even though this is not for everybody in this case. But these are all things that come up with some of the average pricing that we're coming up. So that's why we keep somewhat broad, because there are differences in every facility. And Ed, maybe you can explain to them a little bit more where some of these locations, if people know where their machine rooms are and you have to walk down steps to the machine room, that can be an issue because of our water table.
Yep, we're dealing with that in a couple of different buildings right now where and including the elevator pits, where they just fill up faster than we can empty them. And we have to shut, they're in a rainy season, we have to shut the elevators down. But right now I'm dealing with a couple of companies that are going to seal the pits. I have one going on right now. This is actually our learning thing of how we're going to have to deal with it. But it's just something we're going to have to deal with on certain. The water table's rising, and those pits that are low, the elevator machine rooms that are low, have to definitely be sealed. You can't have water in there. You can't have it in the pit either.
I understand that. The price that you gave of 71,000 is a high. That includes modernization of the mechanical cost and the cabs, the liner and the inside. Is that right?
It's right around there. Again, here's
I'm not asking you to write it in blood. I just wanted to get an idea as to how much it would cost to make sure that my reserves are being properly funded.
And I think that's a good reserve number right in there. And again, we haven't seen the benefits of bidding out multiple elevators at the same time for the multiple bidders that all these bidders are going to be bidding on. So there may be a real price savings based on when we start doing that.
I have one more question, Shawn. I live in Bimini, and I was wondering if you have examined the elevators in our village. And if not, is it possible for me to be there when you examine my elevator?
Absolutely. Any of the owners can be there when I'm in your facility. Absolutely. It's not a problem.
That would be great. Thank you very much. Have a great day. Stay safe.
Thank you, Linda. Next up, we're gonna move on to Miss Linda. Linda, if you could please.
Hi. Yeah, I have a question about, we're going to be hiring somebody to put in a new elevator in the building. It's going to be double inspected, and then it's going to be triple inspected, and then we're going to
Linda, I'm sorry, you are cutting out.
care of this elevator, and then they're going to have one elevator. Then they're going to have one elevator in this new maintenance company. And then a month later, maybe we'll have another elevator put in, and it'll be inspected and inspected. And this new maintenance company will have two elevators. Am I seeing this right? That only the new elevators that are going in are going to be going to this new maintenance company that is going to be accepting all of the responsibility for keeping them, because they haven't accepted any of our old elevators to be as part of their maintenance. They're just accepting the new ones. So
is Bruce on the line?
I think she's way off, Shawn. She wasn't listening before. That this maintenance contract is not just for new elevators. This is for every elevator in Wynmoor. And when they give us a price, they're going to mediate it out depending on that and all the factors that's going to be in the contract. And while I'm on the line here.
But let me just say that it said that what was said was that they are going to accept this contract and there'll be no finger pointing because they will have accepted it. It'll been inspected and inspected and inspected. Now, if you're talking about all our old elevators, then that doesn't seem right.
Yeah, Linda, that's something you added. No, what he's pointing at is if you have a new elevator that's under warranty, the maintenance company is going to accept it and they will be responsible for the maintenance of it through the contract. But your other point is we have elevators that, whether it's new, old, or being worked on, they're all going to be in this contract, not just the ones that we add on. And I want to make 2 points clear, if you don't mind, Shawn.
Sure.
Okay, but I understand that. But the old elevators, in order for the maintenance company to accept them, they would have to go through this inspection process because we're talking about this maintenance company then being responsible from that point forward.
Well, Linda, if you're gonna bid on this job, it's your due diligence to see what you're bidding on. So the objective is to, they're gonna look at these elevators and they're gonna give us a price based on what they are, or they're not gonna bid, or they're gonna just accept it, but.
Okay,
Okay.
all right, so they're gonna do the old elevators as well.
Yeah, let's
I'm
not
just
look at it as
curious-
old elevators. We're getting a maintenance contract for our elevators.
Okay.
Okay.
And how long does it take to install an elevator? Just curiosity, approximately?
Shawn,
you want to answer it?
It's anywhere from, you just heard it with expedited requirements is 10 days, meaning you would pay expedition. Or it's somewhere between, let's say 3 weeks probably.
Okay, all right, thank you. Thanks a lot for your.
Shawn, can I clear up two things we didn't mention in the beginning? That our contract with Oracle ends on June 30th. So this is a contract that will start July 1st. We haven't come up with the terms yet of how long it will be, number one. And number two, if anybody has the impression that Wynmoor has this master plan to renovate all the elevators, that is not true. This is association by association. Most of the associations are on board and they know what they need to do for their residents, and they'll do the right thing. And that probably, hopefully, as Shawn said, maybe 5 years, they'll all be at a point where they've been renovated. Correct, Shawn?
That's a goal. I think I said 6, but if you want it 5, I'll make it 5.
No, you're the expert. You tell them what.
No, the idea is we're going to evaluate this and plan it out based on our evaluation, and then you guys can look. You'll take the information, you'll look at your funding and see what you guys can do.
Okay, next up we have Elliot Rappaport.
I'd just like to make 2 comments. First of all, you need to know that the contract that's proposed includes the lifts also. It's not just the elevators. The second item has to do with upgrading. If you, as a building director or whatever, are not sure of the status of the shell, the shell being wood, it's possible in writing a proposal to ask for a price of for upgrading the shell with the provision that it may or may not be included in the final contract, and that gets away from the contractor coming into a contract with the shell not included, finds that it's deteriorating, and then he's the only one that's bidding on it. It is possible in writing the original proposal to get a price at the beginning that may or may not be included in the final contract.
That's okay. And then I'll add on to what Elliot says. So Ed's already had me put that into the modernization specification. So the cab shell will be addressed during the modifications. What I'm going to recommend right now is if you are delaying your modernization, but you want a new cab first, I'm recommending you delay the cab and you bid it all at once. You will get better pricing when it's done all at once. So again, like Daniel was even mentioned, you put a brand new door operator on an old cab in a shell and you end up replacing it. You're removing all those items again, and that's added cost. So if you do the modernization and the cab at the same time, there's synergies there that you will pick up if you do it all at once. And that's what Daniel was trying to tell you guys earlier.
Thank you, Elliot. Next up is Delio.
I have a question. all our elevators going to be inspected before the upgrades to see what upgrades need to be done, or all have to have all the upgrades done? How does that work? How is that going to work, Ed?
All the elevators will be inspected. If you do it at one part, that's what we just went over. If you do an upgrade of pumps, I'm sorry. If you do an upgrade, you just want to do the entire upgrade all at the same time. But you may not need the upgrade at this time. You just may need to do a little adjustments.
Oh, okay. And that when the inspections were. Oh, I'm
That'll
sorry.
be
Go
part of the that'll be part of the evaluation.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Can I ask a
Once,
My question quickly is, the evaluations, have they started or will they start after January 1?
See you.
Next year sometime.
Okay, thank you.
Next up, we have Mr. Daniel.
Yeah, I just wanted to touch on that point that Shawn just made. The cost to replace the cab, the shell, is much less when you're modernizing your elevator. If your elevator has been modernized already and you want to change the shell, which is the outside of the cab, not what you see on the inside, okay? And you're going to do that afterwards, all the equipment has to be removed. And your cost is going to jump from what could be during the modernization, maybe 13, 14,000 to possibly anywhere between 18 to 25,000 after the modernization is done. And that includes the cab interior. Okay, so the cosmetics that you see inside, that's part of the cab replacement, the shell. So I just wanted to clarify on that.
And that's what Elliot was trying to warn everybody, that's what he was going into if that happens. That's why he wants to make sure, and we have the language, we can cut that out of our regular upgrade section, and Ed can supply that with you. So you guys don't have to look for the language. We actually have that cab renovation portion of it we could remove from the modernization spec to help out the groups that have already modernized that still need to do the cab work.
Hello?
Hello?
Mr. Pedro? You were waving at us. Seidman? Okay, maybe we lost him. Oh, there you go. Hi. Can you unmute yourself? You need to unmute yourself. We cannot hear you. There you go. Good morning.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I am my lack of experience on Zoom. I'm sorry about that.
It's okay.
Okay, I am very concerned about the length of time that we will be without service. Subject that has not been touched on this morning. What can be done in order to make the closure somewhat shorter, because it causes me difficulty and expense, of course. I would like some comment on that fundamental subject. Thank you.
And I believe your question is about the downtime once you do the modernization, if that's correct. And
The overall downtime.
Yeah, so you do have experience within your group, and Jack basically discussed that. So you have an option to request the manufacturer, the vendor installing it, to actually hurry up the process, meaning work either 7 days a week, longer hours, to actually eliminate that downtime. That would be an extra cost. And Jack did touch on that earlier. So that's one way we can eliminate the downtime. And that's really about the only way we can. I don't know if you guys are acceptable about installing a temporary lift just for that 3 or 4 weeks prior. I don't know if you guys have done something like that in your facilities. I mean, that is an option. I have to look at that cost for you guys. It's not a friendly cost, but it is available to you if it's really something that hurts your group. There can be a temporary type unit. You may see something like this on the outside of like a construction building. You know, these are rack and pinion type of units that can be installed for temporary use only if necessary. But I believe if we work through it like Jack's already done and expedite it, you know, he has experience, we can get it down to 10 days or even quicker.
Well, what I was concerned about the possibility that the closure should not be absolute throughout all the time the contractors will be working. There should be some possibility during the work where they will maybe allowing a temporary access to the system. That's all what I would need, for instance. Thank you.
Yeah, so then we deal with different laws on what we can do, because it's to allow somebody to ride an elevator that's unfinished and uninspected by the authorities puts your whole organization at risk. So I'm not saying that can't be done. There's temporary elevator use, but typically that slows the process of the turnover with that use requirement.
I understand that. I was just thinking out aloud whether we can make the proposal to stop the service for such a long time with an undetermined termination of the stoppage, whether what can be done about it. There should be something. Thank you.
We can, what we'll do is we'll look at the different options of how quick we can actually prepare a modernization and the downtime with the extra cost required to eliminate the downtime. I still don't see anything really less than 8 to 10 days.
Well, it's one thing, 8 to 10 days. It's another thing to talk about months.
That's correct. I mean, rule of thumb was it's usually a week of floor. That's old school talk. It's a lot quicker now, but the idea that's a general rule we used to use for budgeting.
Okay, thank you.
Shawn? The 40-year rule, the 40-year inspection, how does that affect elevators?
Say that one more time, Bruce. I'm sorry.
40-year inspection rule. What is specifically in there for elevators?
There's nothing in there for elevators. That's strictly for all your railings, everything else. It should be included, but that is not a requirement you as owners have to deal with. That 40-year plan, elevators are not included in that statute.
Thank you.
Okay, we have 3 more questions left here. Julie, David Mintz, and Barry M. I believe that's the name I'm seeing there. First up is Julie.
Morning. Mr. Pedro's question is a very, very good question. So if you can't have the elevator restored at the end of every day, what methods do our handicapped people get to their doctors and to their food or whatever they have to leave the building on even on a 10-day program? How does that happen? Who brings down a wheelchair from the 4th floor to the ground? How does that happen? Could you explain that to us? Thank you. Pedro is absolutely right. That's a systemic problem in Wynmoor.
Shawn, I'll answer that. Right now, what we do is we notify the fire department that we're shutting down the elevator for whatever the length of time is. We give a 2-week notice so they can so whoever lives on the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th floor can get provisions to carry them through that time. The fire department will come out and help people down if they need it, but they won't help them down to play cards or anything. But if you got an emergency, you got to go to the doctor, they will come out and get you down. They have that stair machine. And they are notified the 2 weeks as well as the residents. that will be happening.
Okay, thank you, Elliot. Next up is David Mintz.
Yeah, again, just addressing what Pedro said, and it's a concern that a lot of us had. When we did our elevator, we did a couple of things. First, we made sure that all the parts, all the components they would need, unless anything came up, it was unexpected, was staged beforehand. We gave them a room to use, or the storage rooms, so that it wouldn't be a situation where the elevator company would say, oh, we have to bring in another part. So everything was staged and ready to go. And we did the same thing. In fact, we did ours before Jack Mendelson did, where we told the elevator company, we will pay you a premium. And basically, we paid them a 10% premium if you get this thing done within 10 days. And if we're not down, if we're down for 10 days or less. And they did. I got to say, they were there 7 days a week, probably 12 hours a day. As for getting people down, they could do it on occasion during the day when their people were there, their technicians. They would not allow it, and the code wouldn't allow it. I mean, what Shawn said and Ed said is 100% correct, that at night, that elevator was shut down. There was no way that we would allow a person other than a licensed technician in that elevator push the button if the buttons were even there. But they do have a way of doing it, and most of the companies are pretty cooperative. So that's one way that we did it. Sorry, that's another thing that we did. But the key is getting everything staged beforehand, being willing, frankly, to lay out some extra money to hurry up the process. But there really is no way, unfortunately, to predict. Once that elevator is shut down, it's going to take whatever time it's going to take to do it if they're doing an efficient job. And if you have a company that does an efficient job, we fortunately did. It's an inconvenience. Hopefully, we also had some residents who told them in wheelchairs that if you could possibly schedule doctor's appointments that you have to go to before the shutdown occurs, if you have someone you can go to, a relative that you could stay with for that period of time. But it is an inconvenience, there's no question about it. But if it's something you have to do, it's something we have to live through. And also, by the way, yeah, the fire department was extremely cooperative in the event of emergencies. Be able to call them and they could send somebody to carry someone down if necessary.
Thank you, David. Shawn, did you have any comments?
No, I mean, I think keep the questions coming. Whatever I can do to help you guys.
Next up, we have
Yes.
Barry.
Yes, I'm here. Barry Maurer, 2003 Granada. Can you hear me?
We hear you.
You didn't unmute it.
Yes, I did unmute it.
We hear you, Barry.
Oh, they hear you. They hear you.
Okay, we're on?
Yes.
I unmuted it. Okay, not so much questions as a few comments real fast. I know a lot of people left, so it's a perfect timing. In Granada, we have a company that we hope we're going to let expire so we can go to some other companies like Motion Elevator or AAA or a few that Daniel McGuire has offered. But a fast comment to Shawn, as well as whatever directors are left. There's so many variables in this. First of all, there could be trouble in the shaft besides ordering parts. Now, the thing about the cab, you could pay, we've got 8,000 or 9,000, 10,000. You could pay up to 15,000 for your cab. You want the fancy metal surrounds on the bottom. You want panels that can be pulled down with the movers and brand smart and rooms to go destroys the inside of your elevator. This is what we have to do and decide on that. Just to back up a little bit, Bogan should be reviewing all of our contracts for each village. I personally don't want to be stuck like what happened with President Smith, where the first few weeks, really nothing happened while they were getting parts or whatever. Then I've heard, forget about the termite thing, but in the shaft itself, if something crumbles. But let's say everything being equal, that you need the hydraulics, the pulleys, the electric. Some companies are saying, well, here's your contract. Oh, the electric is not included. You got to get JPH Electric to do it. So the contracts have to be gone over very carefully. It's basically a money game because I don't think anybody has those kind of reserves, or you're taking from another reserve. So 65 to 70,000, 73,000, bingo, whatever the figure is. And then it's up to the association director building to decide how fancy a cab that you want. And I got some great input from Daniel McGuire. He's been in the business for many years. I hope to go with somebody that is knowledgeable in it. And when the time comes, I don't know how long we have, but I think our particular contract, I don't want to mention the company, is up in June, and I would like to get rid of them and go with another company. So whatever the input is on that from whoever, those are my comments. You really can't know the total until they get in there and do the work. As far as shut-ins, I have 5 shut-ins in the building with 5,260 units. You're always going to have a problem with people who can't get out, and they have to live with it or go to family because they really can't promise you an end date. That's it. Anybody want to comment back? It's fine.
No, that was actually a very good review of what we're trying to say as nice as we can. The idea is, we do not have redundancy in these buildings. We have one elevator. So typically, if we would build these nowadays, we would have the redundancy and probably have 2, but that also has costs associated with it. So the idea is this is something we do need to live through during this period of time. And again, you guys have already done a lot of the upfront work when it comes to doing this. I'm looking at other ideas that we might not have thought about based because I have other avenues into other companies that do have temporary lifts that can be used during this period of time. I'm trying to see what that cost may be so I can share that with you.
Okay, thank you. Last question here is from Mark Proctor, and then we'll move on to Elaine.
Hey, Shawn, thanks again for the service you're providing for us. We have, I guess we're the guinea pig on the first waterproofing unit, if you will. And since we've just completed that, are you available to swing by this afternoon, meet me briefly, possibly with Ed, inspect what you expect? Let's take a look at the status of this and discuss just a couple of things. Shouldn't take but a few minutes.
You know what, I can. I did plan on going to your building. I think I was doing something with Ed around 11, so I do have an opening in my schedule I could run over.
You just tell me what time. I'll be happy to meet you down there.
I guess it is 11 right now.
A little past that, but
well, whenever this ends, I could be over there in about 15-20 minutes.
I will see you then. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Mark.
Thanks.
The floor is yours, Elaine. Unmute.
I want to thank you, Shawn. This was a fabulous meeting, very informative. I'm sure everybody got as much as they needed out of it and maybe even more. And Ed, thank you for bringing Shawn to us. And I just want to discuss our next meeting before I close this down. We will be partnering, CAPS will be partnering with Association Affairs to host the mandated state Florida course for all new presidents and directors. This is a great time to review for all of our presidents and directors, and it handles Statute 718. And I hope you join us, and that's going to be on January 15th. I want to wish everyone a healthy, happy, and safe new year. And I'd like to adjourn this meeting. Can I have a second on that?
Well, can I ask one question, please?
Sure, sure.
I received a email from Ed, and Ed, is that a question I need to answer during this meeting? Are these people on this call? This is about a elevator incident. You just forwarded that email to me earlier today. Does that need to be discussed today?
No. We'll talk about it when you come here.
Oh, okay. All right. Sounds good. All right. Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, anytime. We very informative. And as we go further into this process, I'm sure we will like to have you back to discuss things that are going to happen. Thank you again. And now I would like to get an adjournment on this meeting and again remind everybody, January 15th. Can I get a second on the adjournment? Oh, okay, Julie, thank you for adjourning. And everybody, again, healthy, happy, safe New Year.
You too.
Thank you.
Everybody's going on. I'm gonna leave the meeting.
And everybody went goodbye.